Butch and I are talking about the common mistakes, installation errors with heating and air conditioning systems, and this is one of a series of videos that we'll be giving to you. Butch, could you tell me what's the first most common mistake for installation that is costing people money?
Part of that is, besides just not having the time to choose the right contractor, is the contractor you choose putting in the wrong size of equipment.
What does that mean?
Matching the size of the equipment to the load of the house, and that actually involves doing what we call a load calculation.
A load of the house would mean how much it needs of heat or cool?
How much heating it needs capacity-wise in the wintertime, or how much cooling needs to be provided during the summer. But to get the proper performance, or to get the highest miles per gallon, you need a system that is properly sized to do it. Yes, you could put in a super larger system, but you're going to pay for it in operating expenses.
Okay.
Because it's oversized and it's going to swallow a certain amount of fuel. But if you put one in that is the proper size, that fits the way that it should, you're going to get the most energy and the highest level of comfort for the dollar that you spend.
Does that mean a 12 SEER or a 13 or an 18 or a 24 SEER, or does it mean a 3-ton or 5-ton? I mean, what is
common terminology is tonnage-wise and cooling capacity as a yardstick to measure how large a unit is
for the house.
For the house, if your house would need a 2-ton system, 24,000 BTUs worth of cooling, properly sized, putting in a 3-ton or larger is throwing away money, and it's going to affect the indoor air. It's not indoor air meaning the quality of the moisture control in the house.
So are you saying oftentimes when it only needs a 2-ton, they're putting in a 3-ton system?
That's quite often what happens.
Like normally, more than half?
Normally they're oversized, and I've seen it double many times.
What? It only needs a 2-ton, they put a 4-ton in there.
Yes.
Because they think it's a good thing.
Yes, everyone thinks bigger is better, and bigger is not better, especially with the high efficiency equipment today. Cycle times have a large effect. Coil sizes have changed quite a bit. It has to be a matched system, or you're going to have operational problems. Okay,
let's go down that path a minute. Let's just say the guy needs a 2-ton piece of equipment, and he put a 4-ton in there. Now that the 4-ton is in there, they paid too much for the equipment now because they and now what are all these dynamics that are causing havoc in the house?
Besides the initial expense of too large a piece of equipment, then you get into operational expense. Every time that comes on, you're starting up a super large system that you don't need to start. That takes a lot of power to get going. Then it doesn't run very long, so it doesn't get into full, stable operating conditions, and it shuts off because it's cooled the air for the volume that it has so quickly. Coils don't get saturated, and you want them to get saturated so that they pull some of the moisture out. Otherwise, you get into a situation where, yes, it's 70 degrees in the house, but it's sticky and it's clammy, so I'm turning it down to 68 so that it runs a little bit longer. And now it's cycling more often. Equipment operates better when it has extended run times. The power usage is less. You get better humidity control, so it cuts down on mold and moisture problems. And your comfort is greatly increased if it has a chance to operate for a while. And that takes properly sizing equipment.
Well, we talked about this a little while ago, and I think you said when you have a really big engine and it's bringing in all this air real quick, and then it lowers the temperature real fast, and then it did its job, and so the thermostat says, well, we don't need this anymore, and then the thing shuts off, and it's quiet, and then a few minutes later, the thing starts up again.
Yeah, it's called short cycling, and with today's larger coils that are used to get the efficiency levels up, a large system can come on, start to operate, actually satisfy a thermostat, and there's delay timers in the system that shuts the system down but allows the fans to operate to gain a little bit more efficiency. And all the moisture that is pulled out of the house that's on the coil and hasn't had a chance to drain off yet gets re-evaporated because the fan is still running. That is introduced back into the house. The clamminess and the humidity level of the house stays high. And within a matter of minutes, it comes right back on, drops the temperature in the house within a minute or two, and it's hard for the thermostat itself to keep up with those cycles because it's coming in, satisfying, shuts off, and the load in the house is changing enough that it comes right back on, and you're in constant short cycle times.
Okay, so it's turning the engine on, turning it off, on and on. Man, that would really work on the equipment and then make it wouldn't last as long, I would think.
Definitely not. Electrical motors are meant to run. Starting and stopping is the highest demand and the highest loads on the electrical motors and the components. It's banging off, banging on, banging off, and banging on. And mechanical equipment is best to be put in operation and left go, left operate. The more it operates, the better it works.
All right, so they've paid more for the equipment, but then the thing is cycling on and off, which means it's taking more energy because it's going on and off. Right? And then, because it's going on and off, that means the equipment is working much harder.
You get a higher wear with
and then it's going to last, maybe half as long. The equipment will last half as long. And then everybody is suffering because then you got this thing going up and down and up and down and up and down in the temperature of the house.
Right. The temperatures in the house are swinging up and down and back and forth and back and forth.
All because it's not the load calculation not done right.
It's not properly sized.
Sheesh. Wow.
What happens a lot of times there, people will have, especially if they've got an existing home and they're doing a replacement, they've got other issues within the home. And the home needs to be properly evaluated in what we call the whole house concept, because it all has to work together. The heating and cooling affects the whole house, and the air circulation and movement within the house all affects the operation of the system. And they'll have deficiencies in one area, or it's just not cooling right, so I want a bigger unit. And a lot of contractors, especially the unscrupulous contractor, is going to say, oh yeah, a bigger unit's more money, yeah, I'll sell you a bigger unit.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger will do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Only to find out that their utility bills extremely increase. They're more uncomfortable because now it slams on and slams off and doesn't get into a steady state of operation.
Mm-hmm.
All from poor sizing.
Mm-hmm.